Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. What they say about Muhammad. WAMY series on Islam number 4. During the Crusades, all sort of slanders were leveled against the Prophet Muhammad. With the birth of the modern age, which is characterized by a greater degree of religious tolerance and freedom of thought, there has been a change in the approach of Western authors who study the Prophet's life and character. A sampling of their view is given below. Unfortunately, the West still has not released the greatest aspect of the Prophet. He is the last of the prophets sent by God to guide mankind to the truth. In spite of its great advance in other areas of life, the West still has not made a sincere and objective attempt to understand the message brought by the Prophet. Although some people have seen him as a person worthy of high praise and have paid him glowing tributes on the levels of personal integrity and achievement. His claim of being the prophet of God has almost always been rejected, either explicitly or implicitly, as false. It is time to treat this last claim with a spirit of the objectivity and open-mindedness. Just who was Muhammad? According to all accounts, which are authentic and accepted by all Muslim scholars, up until the age of 40, he was known to his people as a decent man. He was not a statesman, a preacher, or an orator. He was never seen discussing principles or theories associated with metaphysics, ethics, law, politics, economics, or sociology. He possessed an excellent character, charming manners, and was highly cultured. But his characteristics are not so deeply striking and so radically extraordinary that people would expect something great and revolutionary from him in the future. One of Muhammad's customs was to retire to a nearby cave, for private session of thinking and meditation. This in itself was not unusual. For other people also did this, but when he came out of his cave after receiving the first revelation, he was completely transformed. Several questions need to be asked here. Is it possible for a person known and respected for his honesty and trustworthiness to announce suddenly that he is the prophet of God and to begin to call upon his people to abandon their old lives and beliefs for new ones? Also, if he were a false prophet, why did he suffer through all of the hardship that his people imposed upon him? And why, when his people offered to accept him as their king and to lay all the riches of the land at his feet, if only he would kiss and desist, did he refuse to do so? Why did he continue to preach Islam in the face of all kinds of insults, social boycott, and even physical assault by his own people? Was it not only God's support, along with his firm will to disseminate is the Islamic revelation and his deep-rooted belief that ultimately Islam would emerge as the sole universal religion, that he refused that he refused to be cowed and swayed by any of the opposition and plots launched against him by his enemies. Furthermore, if he intended to use Islam as a rival religion against Judaism and Christianity, why did he make believe in Jesus Christ, Moses, and all of the other prophets of God a basic requirement of the Islamic faith? Is it not an incontrovertible proof of his prophethood that, despite being unlettered and having led a very normal and quiet life for 40 years, that all of Arabia stood in awe and wonder of his wonderful eloquence and oratory when he began to preach Islam? It was so much less that legion of Arab poets, preachers, and orators of the highest caliber failed to produce and composition that could compare with or equal it. And above all, and above all, how could he state scientific truths that would not be known be by to the rest of humanity for centuries, and that he could not learn about in any other way except through divine revelation? Last but not least, why did he lead an even harder life after gaining power and authority? Just ponder the words he uttered when he was dying. We, the, community of the prophets, do not inherit all that we live is for charity. Consider what others have said about this extraordinary man. If greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and astounding result are the three criteria of human genius, who call dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad, the most famous man creator arms, the most famous man created arms, laws, and empires only that they founded, if anything at all, no more than material powers, which often crumbled away before their eyes. These men moved not only armies, legislation, legislation, empires, peoples, and dynasties, but millions of men in a wonder of the then inhabited world, and that more than that, he moved the altars, the gods, the religions, the ideas, the beliefs and souls. His forbearance in victory, his ambition, which was entirely devoted to one idea, and in no manner striving for an empire. His endless prayer, his endless prayers, his mystic conversation with God, his death in his triumph after death, all this attest not to an imposture, but to affirm conviction which gave him the power to restore a dogma. This dogma was twofold: the unity of God and immateriality of God. The former, the former telling what God is, the latter telling what God is not, the one overthrowing false gods with the sword, the other starting an idea with the words philosopher, orador, apostle, legislator, warrior, conqueror, conqueror of ideas, restorer of rational dogmas, of a cult without image, the founder of 20 terrestrial empires and of one spiritual empire. That is Muhammad. As regards all standards by which human greatness might be measured, we may well ask, is there any man greater than he? Le Martin Histoire de la Turquie, Pence, 1854, Hall 11. It is not the propagation but the permanency of his religion that deserves our wonder. The same pure and perfect impression which he engraved at Mecca and Medina is preserved after the revolution of 12 centuries by the Indian, the African, and the Turkish falsities of the Quran. The Mahometans have uniformly withstood the temptation of reducing the object of their faith and devotion to a level with the sense and imagination of man. I believe in one God, and Muhammad is the apostle of God, is the simple and invariable profession of Islam. The intellectual image of the deity has never been degraded by any visible idol. The honors of the prophet have never transgressed the measure of human virtue, and his living precepts have restrained the gratitude of his disciples within the bounds of reason and religion. Edward Gibbon and Simon Oakley, History of the Saracen Empire, London, 1817. He was Caesar and Pope in one, but he was Pope without Pope's pretensions, Caesar without the legions of Caesar, without standing army, without a bodyguard, without a palace, without a fixed revenues, without a fixed revenue. If ever any man had the right to say that he ruled by the right divine, it was Muhammad, for he had all the power without its instrument and without its support. Bosworth Smith, Muhammad and Muhammad Smith, London, 1874. It is impossible for anyone who studies the life and character of the great prophet of Arabia, who knows how he thought and how he lived, to feel anything but reverence for that mighty prophet, one of the great messengers of the Supreme. And no doubt in what I put to you, I shall say many things which may be familiar to many, yet I myself will feel whenever I reread them a new way of admiration, a new sense of reverence for that mighty Arabian teacher, and Ibn the life and teaching of Muhammad. Madras uh, 1932. His readiness to undergo persecution for his beliefs, the high moral character of the man who believed in him and looked up to him as leader, and the greatness of his ultimate achievement all argue his fundamental integrity to suppose Muhammad an impostor raise more problems than is solved. Moreover, none of the great figures on history is so poorly appreciated is the West Muhammad. In the West as Muhammad W. Montgomery Watt, Muhammad at Mecca, Oxford. Muhammad at Mecca, Oxford, 1953. Muhammad, the inspired man who founded Islam, was born about AD 570 into tube, an Arabian tube that worshipped idols or pan at birth. He was always he was always particularly solicitous of the poor and needy, the widow and the orphan, the slave and the downtrodden. At 20, he was already a successful businessman and soon became director of camel caravans for a wealthy widow. When he reached 25, his employer, recognizing his meat, proposed marriage. Even though she was 15 years older, he married her, and as long as she lived, remained a devout husband. Like at almost every major prophet before him, Muhammad vowed shy of serving as the transmitter of God's word, sensing his own inadequacy, but the angel recommended read. So far as we know, Muhammad was unable to read or write, but he began to dictate those inspired words which would soon revolutionize a large segment of the earth. There is one God. In all things, Muhammad was profoundly practical. When his beloved son Ibrahim died, an eclipse occurred, and rumors of God's personal condolence quickly arose, whereupon Muhammad is said to have announced it. An eclipse is a phenomenon of nature. It is foolish to attribute such things to the death of or birth of a human being. At Muhammad's own death, an attempt an attempt was made to defeat him, but the man who was to become his administrative successor killed the hysteria with one of the noblest speeches in religious history. If there are any among you who worship Muhammad, he's dead. But it but if it is God you worship, he lives forever. James Macon, Islam the misunderstood religions. Reader digits May 1955. My choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential person may surprise some readers and might be questioned by others, but he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and secular level. Michael, Michael A. Hart, the 100th ranking of the most influential person in history. New York has publishing company in 1978. Demikian tugas dari saya. Saya ucapkan terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.